All right, good morning or evening or whatever it is. Sorry for the delay. I was hoping to get this going a little faster, but I got out late and then more lateness happened. Anyway, this is I was hoping to get this wrapped up today and tomorrow, but it looks like this is going to be a three-parter. So it's going to definitely require a little bit of extra time here before I can get back to finish it. Not entirely sure when that will be. Might be as late as like July 11th. But we will see. It might even be as short as next weekend. So we'll see how this goes. Okay. Anyway, this is some stuff from 2007 that I somehow managed to forget. I went on a little trip with my dad over Labor Day weekend to check out some sort of sites around South Jersey. Oh, maybe I was going to be doing Bailey's Y this week. Oh, well, that's for another time. And so there's a bunch of stuff on the Atlantic City line, Winslow Junction, but also some interesting sort of abandoned-y, urbex, suburbex stuff that I'm probably gonna go back through and do it again. So, that's weird. Anyway, I wanted to get through this to see what we can, just to, it's one of the older ones that I've forgotten, so might as well get a handle on it right now. So let's see if we can get this done before it gets a little any later here. So it's going to be pretty evenly matched between the rail content and the semi-rail the non-rail content. But I think it fits. It's going to be better than some of them. So the first thing I want to have is this interesting building here, and I wish I was, I guess I was in my 20s and stuff. Like I could have gone and legitimately urbexed this, or at least poked around or something. But all I have are just a couple of photos right before it was demolished. And this was the old Deity service building in Westmont, or what they might call today Haddon Township. I wonder why that snapped back down to North Carolina. So, what am I talking about here? First off, where are we? Suburban South Jersey, Camden County, Haddonfield, Westmont, aka Haddon Township, and then Collingswood next door. My dad was from Collingswood. Westmont was sort of in between there and Haddonfield. Right on old Haddon Avenue here, right across the Patco station. There's Haddonfield. There's your Westmont. Right there, I even got a chance to tag it, was... Oh, wow, there's a plane there. Interesting. Now you can see it's all like 4-over mixed-use stuff. For years, there was a strange thing that I never quite knew what it was as a kid, and until someone explained it to me. Because even back growing up in the 80s, like, diapers were disposable, right? But up into a certain point in time, I think even into the maybe into the 90s, probably not, but I'm not sure, people in the area were still getting cloth diaper service, which is just both interesting and gross. Instead of getting disposable ones, someone would roll up with cloth ones, and I guess there were enough babushkas in the area that still used that. And the place always looked abandoned, but with this fence in front of it, it's like very abandoned. It's literally abandoned, and it's been there's an interesting thing on Time where. There's a lot of this sort of local, what I'll call local history, is very tough to cover, to get the history on things. Anything past 2000, and you can pick up stuff on Yelp or old Google reviews. But stuff that closed in the 90s. It's tantalizingly close. Like you think that you should be able to. You think that you should be able to get information on it, but like you look, you just don't, and no one ever talks about it, and it's sort of weird. But my dad said, like, he was, up even in the 90s, he said that, like, oh, yeah, that place is still in service. There was, you would go behind the building, they had, they had big old stuff that would, steam would be coming out of it in the morning. There was one thing, I think he said there was a sign that labeled a building as the lobster pit or something, or the lobster tank. Had this really cool, had a clock on it, and this really cool, like, delivery, old school speedy delivery guy with a parcel up there. I'm gonna go and one of these days I'm gonna I see they have the stuff zoomed into it. A little hard to read. Quality mark, the original New Jersey and Bucks County, PA. Serving New Jersey and Bucks County. Good for them. You can see the old wooden water tower behind it and everything. So at least I knew enough at this point to get a picture of this thing, but it was still pretty interesting. And again, I swear we're not going to be talking about diapers all day. But I just wanted to. This is one of the more interesting locations, and all I have are like these photos and a couple from behind it. To make up for the time, I'm going to do a short stack tonight. Anyway, okay, here we are. This is South Race interlocking. I have since gotten better, newer photos, but actually these aren't bad. South Race is the south end of Race siding. NJT's Atlantic City rail line was rebuilt after going out of service in 1983. It actually only took them about 6 years. Growing up as a kid, my dad always called it the abandoned railroad. But NJT ACRL service really was only in this part it hadn't been in service since like the 1960s. But below Lindenwold, it had been going on pretty well. But when they rebuilt it, it was rebuilt as a single track with passing sidings. I don't mean like a typical, it was very, very, very small, like single block passing sidings, 5,000 feet. And trains were very closely, they basically did a string line schedule, and everywhere they had the trains meeting, they would build one of these very, very small passing sidings. So for many years, this was the still, I mean, to this day, growing up, I mean, when they resumed service in '89, this was the closest railroad interlocking and railroad interlocking to me. Also, my closest grade crossing. Here we have. So this is known as, this is Utica Avenue grade crossing. Besides being really one of the only passenger grade crossing, and now the only grade crossing that sees any frequent use near me. For a period of time during the Patco construction in 1966 through 69, when they had to close downtown Haddonfield, Westmont. There wasn't a lot of train service, but this is where they built a temporary Utica Avenue station. So RDCs would stop at anything going over the bridge would stop at Lindenwold, and then, maybe I don't know if they'd stop at Lindenwold or not. But instead of stopping at Collingswood, Haddonfield, Westmont, this is where they would build a Utica Avenue station. Blech. And here you can see uh, the the crossing. It's just the crossing bits itself. And the northbound signal. These, of course, to this day are approach lit, so it's hard to get pictures of them. The other problem today with these signals is that after that Amtrak crash, NJT came in to implement like some emergency ATC speed restrictions, and the best that this can display is advanced approach. Even though there's full access PTC, can't be too safe. And here we have another view of it with the track. The Utica Avenue station and parking lot. See where those cars are? It was over there. I'm pretty sure it was on this side of the crossing. There's a picture of it in by rail to the boardwalk. I'm wondering if I could find one. It's one of those things that here it is. Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's fucking Facebook. So anyway, there's oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was on the near side. Yeah, that would make sense. So there again, there's your little Utica Avenue station, from 1967, and this replaced the normal Westmont Haddon Township station. See, just a little thing. And for those who don't know, again, there's South Race interlocking, Utica Avenue, and that's where Utica Avenue station would have been, and parking probably for it would have been all in there. Yeah, not much about it is still visible. Here we have that's why I always forget what the switch number is, and I bet I didn't look it up back then. Let's see here. I think this would be the 12 switch. This was done by Amtrak. So it would use Amtrak's naming convention. Yep. So this direction of switch would be 12, from track 1 to track 2. In the early days before the Cherry Hill station was built, um, there was no race. So there's a north race and a south race at the end of the siding. And then when they built the Cherry Hill station, they added an extra crossover so that Atlantic, the plan was for like Atlantic City Line Amtrak trains to be able to skip it or blah, 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 blah. Eventually everything stops at that, but it's on the siding, so all the trains have to pull over. But they have like a double pocket so they can do almost any combination of meets that they want to. And occasionally they'll stash an MOW train. But unfortunately, like I said, it's on the station is on the siding track. Now they could build a station on the other side, serve them both, but only because there's a Costco there and a Wegmans and a major employment center. But no, like there's not like you have to like sneak through a hole in the fence to even get to your job. It's insane how hard they try to make it for people to use the line to like reach a job center. It's nuts. Like I don't know who they think is going to be coming through the fence, and it's not like it's residential. It's a freaking Costco. In fact, I'm sure it's the residences. A lot of the residences probably would cut the holes in the fences to be able to reach the station more conveniently. This is an Amtrak style sign there, although it's vaguely NJTE. That was the style of Amtrak station sign at the time. NJT is a slightly different font. And here we have the northbound siding mast. These are all supplied by Harman Electric Code, which to this is now went to GE and then turned into this thing called Lindsay more recently. And the main mast here currently backlit. Again, the best this can display right now is advanced approach. Maybe the other one can still do clear. I'm not entirely sure because this is where the speed restriction is south of here. Even though Patco is east-west, the Atlantic City Rail Line is north-south. PRSL was north-south. It's sort of hard to realize that when you're when you're in New Jersey. Yeah, Atlantic City like. Everything is very northwest, southeast type of thing, so you see the shore as east. So even though Atlantic City is very south and Cape May is very, very south, they're at the shore and the ocean is east, at least from a whatever point of view. The railroad did it a little bit more sensibly north-south. But I generally, and you can see Patco did it more, did it like something that was more intuitive for the average rider. Sort of hard to see, but you can see there's a pair of I guess they'd be like 24 kV power distribution lines along this right of way. They've been there for they would come from various power plants along the river or the Pico feed. There was a power plant right across the Delaware Bridge. There's a lot of substations right near the river too. So these 24 there's at least there's one three-phase, so these three three-phase circuits they would feed the main transformers for Haddonfield and some other places. Just putting a marker down on that one, and that goes back to when this bridge line was built. This was always a PRR route. I mean a PRR line. The PRSL went from Camden to Atlantic City. The PRR owned over the Delaware Bridge and all the way to Vernon interlocking. So this was always just straight PRR, even though it was all used by PRSL traffic. All right, that's our first bit of stuff there. I don't need to do any weird stuff with the names either, because this is one of the first ones that doesn't have them all in weird orders. Oh, cool! We got a PRSL guy. The Atlantic City airport is really far from the Atlantic City line, I think. It's like far enough that you'd still need a shuttle bus. So it might be easier to have a shuttle bus from Absecon. I'd have to look at it. I mean, I guess we could look at it real quickly right here. Okay, so there's the line. There's the airport, but you have to go all the way around to get in from the other side. So you have to you'd have to go. So the station would be, you'd build a new station like where? There at this crossroads. So from there you got to go there, down and in via shuttle bus. And that's practically the same amount of distance that, I mean, I guess the Absecon's a little bit farther. Maybe you have one at Cologne. It's a actual built up area. So maybe you'd put it like right there, just sort of, or a Pomona station. Just keep the cost down. That's the important thing. So we're gonna be, well, hold on. I have gone back down here to get photos of these signals, like better ones. It feels a little bit more dicey. I don't know what it is, what's up with it. I don't think anyone really cared back in 2007, but I don't know today. It's a little more, I would say it's, I actually don't know if it's more fenced or not. So for some reason, the mast signals coming off the siding had three heads. You'd think, oh, that's for medium approach medium. And while they would see medium, in theory, you would see medium approach medium. Like, despite having all these three-headed signals, I don't think they really any of them showed medium approach medium. I have to check, but I think you just get medium clear in a cab signal for approach medium. But they gave this third extra head just to do red over yellow restricting, with the medium yellow being for medium approach. I don't get it. Maybe they just didn't like flashing signals more than they cared about medium approach medium. The major reason I'm not there now, I don't crawl all over this interlocking for photo purposes, is just because there's so many cars at that grade crossing, and quite a few cops are going by there too. So you just never know when some half-wit suburbanite's gonna make a stink about it. And here we have the 12 switch M3 machine, or M23. A lot of the engineering that went on this line had similarities to the New Haven line or the Springfield line. They were re-signaled or rebuilt about the same time in the 80s. In 1986, Springfield line was still double track 251, and then some point by the 90s was single track with passing sidings, almost exactly like the ACL, only they didn't do the north-south siding thing. All right, now we're getting into some actual more abandoned stuff. Again, I apologize for these little sections. I'll try to make them as interesting as possible. So if you go, my dad was always, it was sort of like urbex before it was cool. So remember, this section here had been, the bridge line had been more abandoned than the normal ACRL. The normal Atlantic City line ended service in '83, but for many years it had been running Lindenwold to Atlantic City, and they were servicing the RDCs at Atlantic City, and the only freight was a small. There was at some point in the late PRSL, there was a freight to the Woodcrest Industrial Park, which is now rapidly turning into 4-overs. It wasn't even that long ago that like Victory Refrigeration built a brand new building, and then that was just demolished recently. Very interesting. So this building had a rail service. It's now offices. Edmund Optics, I guess, that used to be Edmund Scientific. But this actually, this had a rail spur in the lot. It was a little bit, you see it. But these buildings there and there were the Woodcrest Industrial Park, and that got rail service in the 70s. Or on Conrail day one, that was still getting rail service. So what does that mean? That whole rest of the main line up through Haddonfield, this blue line, had been abandoned, had been functionally out of service. I'll say abandoned, but it's out of service since, I don't know, early 70s. So my dad would trot me down, and this area here was Garden State Racetrack. It's now, again, development. Probably better use of the land than a racetrack, honestly. So this whole area is Garden State Racetrack. And I remember that my dad and I, he would go, he had a lot of good times off. So we'd just go. We'd park at Utica Avenue, or we'd park here. We'd go up to the out-of-service track, which was just, turning into weeds and trees and stuff. And then we would walk as far as we could get. I'm 6, I'm 4, I'm whatever. So we would see how far we could get, like this far, starting from there, like this far was pretty far to I-7, State Route 70. We'd usually get up in here before I'd run out of gas. I remember once, like we walked all the way to 38. Like walking to 38 was something pretty crazy. And I think one time we got like really far up to like Chapel, with the old bridge there. So hanging out around this area was something I was always doing with my dad as a kid. And they built the Atlantic City line, and then by the way, when they ran the track link, I remember when the track machine went through. The Amtrak guy gave me a hard hat. They gave us a chunk of rail too that to this day we use as a safety weight for doing ladder work. We roll out this 3-foot chunk of rail on a dolly and put it under the ladder. Holds the ladder in place. Anyway, so a couple of interesting things. In the 80s, the local area switched from every town having its own sewage treatment to something called the CCMUA, Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority. They basically wanted to clean up Cooper River. So Haddonfield, for example, had its sewage treatment plant right there. And you can't. There's nothing. You can't even see it used to be there. See this one little pump house? That's what replaced it. And Westmont's was right there. And I remember seeing the aeration. You go there. They used a rock bed aerator That's where they squirt the poop water onto a bed of rocks, and then the algae. Basically, all sewage treatment involves algae or bacteria eating up all the poop. And then they clarify it out and release it back into the water, pretty much 99% fine. However, okay, so that's what the old one was. Today, there's nothing. There's a building. I remember going up this right here, this street, Village Court. This development was brand new. And like this house, this here was just a pile of dirt. So my dad would drive down here. We'd park in this cul-de-sac. Then we would walk over the pile of dirt and go up on the tracks. Remember, they're out of service. This is before we would go down to eventually we started going down to Unica Avenue, I think, when they built the house. But the sewage treatment plant would be right there, and you would see these merry-go-round sprayers spraying stuff. So why am I saying this? Well, because today there's nothing there. It all goes to CCMUA. But before that, there was actually an earlier sewage treatment plant that the remains of which I think are still to this day are in that forest. And here in 2007, not that my dad ever became disabled, but this was probably the last time. Again, he didn't die immediately, but this was the last time that we really went on one of these little hikes in the woods and climbed all over the sewage treatment plant. So the interesting thing about this is, I'll show you. Like, I swear I can make this interesting. And then we get back to train stuff. So there were two things. This is where the sewer line from the town came in. The interesting thing is that the sewer line that came in here was like, what, 10 inches, maybe a foot? And then the one that went to the new one was like 3 feet wide. I don't have any photos of that. But it came into this one little side tank, and then it went into a bigger tank, and then it pretty much just like, like they shook it around a little bit, declared it to be done, and then put it back into the the thing. I don't even know if this had. Maybe this was the secondary tank. I don't know. Sewage treatment's been around for a while. It's surprisingly low tech, but a lot of times they just sort of like skimmed some things off and then dumped it into the river. I am somewhat inspired to go down there tomorrow and just see what's left. It's gonna be hot and muggy, but I'm definitely of a mind to see what's left of this stuff. You got the jewel weed growing in it. It's all full of kid beer cans. Trees are falling down. But one thing I do want to draw a connection to, a technology connection, if you will. If you remember my talk about the Lackawanna cutoff. And how early concrete is way, way, way better than what I'll say is typically installed today, despite concrete being higher tech. Higher tech generally means lighter, cheaper, very definitely durable, but like durable at it's more durable at every cost point. The thing is that when what is it? When reinforced concrete technology first appeared, they didn't know how to get, it was a wonder technology. It was way cheaper than rock, so they could pretty much just brute force quality. So I don't know what they did to brute force quality, but like this old concrete from about 1906 to 1920 something, it does not quit. There's something about this old concrete. And this was probably built in the 20s. And even after decades of abandonment, it's got a little bit, some chip there. But it's got a lot of sharp edges. I don't know what they put in. Maybe just a lot of Portland cement to the rock aggregate. All right, so I'm guessing this was, I label this as the primary tank. I don't know. I really don't know how this was set up, or even if it had a primary and a secondary. But this is where the stuff would immediately drain into. I think this was designed to let it settle in some way. It would then probably get raked out in some way, and then that's pretty much all it does. Primary sewage treatment is you skim stuff that's floating, and you take solid stuff that sinks. You slow the water down so stuff comes out of suspension. Then you send it to you send it what they call a secondary tank. That's where the bacteria eats all the bacteria eats it all, and then you clarify it. It's very simple. Clarification is you then slow it down again, and then what comes out is crystal clear. But knowing what this kid, as a kid, I'd walk all over this, but I was still scared to death of I knew that there was technically no poop in this, but it's still not. It still looks like it's still pretty. Whatever's in there is still pretty damn gross, and a lot of beer cans. Of course, kids these days don't drink. They're too busy trying to get into a good school, which is good. It's a better place to be. But I'm definitely going to roll down there tomorrow and see what's up. But again, look at these concrete beams, just freestanding, and there's not a very, very little degradation in what is 90-year-old concrete. So you can't really see this very well. There is a steps that would lead up to this, and this is the pipeline that used to run across the creek. If I go to the Google map and hit map and then terrain, you can then see how they just found this little culvert next to Westmont, and then that was downhill. So the stuff, whatever the sewer line is, came from over here and crossed the creek. And that's where they built it, and it just drained right into Cooper River. And you can see one of the cradles for the pipe. So in the 90s, this pipe was intact, and it was probably cast iron, and it was intact across this creek. Looks like they see this when I was first in here, like that a tree probably fell and caused that opening. So we're already starting to see some increased degradation to the site, even by 2007. Again, I know this isn't the normal rail stuff. It's going to go back and forth a little bit here. I will say that I had been visiting the site before. I took an interesting sort of a summer thing on water issues. So that's why we visited a sewage treatment plant. So that's suddenly how I know all the sewage treatment plant facts. But I will say that this is, remember, I always, one of my other things is, oh man, I wish I know what I was looking at back then. I would have taken more pictures. I will say this is the one case where I did go back and with my camera, and I'm like, hey, I should take more pictures of this stuff. I don't know what's still left today, but I'm definitely glad I took photos of this stuff back in 07, which is 18 years ago. I don't know what these stairs came from. They went up to this sort of the big tank, though, the big complex. So again, this is one of those, even though this is much older than the Dighty service place, I still have no real good idea of where one would go to find information. Now, for my town, someone produced these little books called Lost Haddonfield Law. You see them for all the towns. In fact, I think it's like a book. It's some company that commissions them for like every town that someone will write it. And they will always go into things like, oh, at this corner was Jacob's cigar store and the tannery and that stuff. And those are surprisingly interesting. But they'll go into streetcar stuff and the railroad station and the ice house and blah, 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 blah. They, unfortunately, don't tend to go into sort of more contempo things like, the diaper place or the sewage treatment plant. Now, the reason I know this is primary is because the cast iron pipe came right in there, did this little split, and then dropped it right down. into the main holding zone. I'm guessing that this would settle out, the solids would settle out. There was like a tray at the other end that either the water would come out, I think it would collect the water. I don't know if stuff would get skimmed. Usually they would have like a chain drive thing to skim it. Or maybe so there might have been some device here that's not intuitively obvious in its current state. That was pretty high tech back in the day. As in, it was tech. The water just didn't get piped directly into the local creek for then people downstream to drink. As someone mentioned to me, the key to holding cholera at bay, or not even for most illness, was simply don't shit in your water. That's your number one public health guideline there. See, again, there are these little pockets, and I don't know how all this stuff worked. Like, yeah, I don't know the original design. I love this is the thing. Maybe I should go down to their historic society. These are the things that they do not come up in YouTube-y stuff. There's some stuff in Haddonfield where the Medford line had a bridge and there was a massive abutment thing there. I don't even know if that's still standing. The town was scavenging it for what do you call that? Winter road grit. And I haven't been down there because the town sold the sewage, the waterworks to a local public conglomerate. Yeah, it was probably something they needed to do. We're kind of past that point where cost disease makes that impractical. See, here's the outflow, but I'm betting like this was able to basically all the crap was able to just sort of stay. The hard stuff stayed in there, and this came down there. Now, what they did with it, I do not know. How long it did take to fill up? Got me. Who cleaned it? I don't know. It was next to the railroad. Maybe it had railroad service. Maybe they took the sludge and sent it somewhere for disposal. Maybe they just piled it up in this gully somewhere like coal ash. Maybe they sent it to the coal ash place. Who knows what they did? I would love to know. I mean, I don't know who does know, but I'm very interested in the dates of operation of this and what the actual processes were. I'll put a pin in that. Maybe I'll make a visit to the Westmont Historical Society, or send them an email. Oh, we got that bunch done. See, like I said, I don't have to go fiddling around with like the names now, so that'll save a bit of time. All right, I'm going to do to number 40 today, and then we'll call it a quits with this last set here. Let me see if anyone has any pick things here. Watching on your ATV, that's fine. Oh, okay. Yeah, I always have 83 in my head. I don't know why I have 83 in my head. Something about 83. The 83 was when Conrail. I didn't know it was 82. 83 was when Conrail was required to turn over its commuter services. So I figured that they turned over that Atlantic City service and when they switched everything else in 82. Sorry, whatever that 83 date. SEPTA 83, that Metro North day one, SEPTA day one, all that was, I figured that the AC went to 83. So thanks you all for watching. Like I know this isn't the normal thing, but I'm just trying to get through it here. It'll be quick. At least I'm not fumbling with the what do you call it as much name file names and such. I have I'm just using the old ones. There's no reason not to fiddle around with this stuff. Although it is a little difficult to get the sizes right here. See, we have the there's whatever they had two tanks, that big one and the small one, and there's this big old cast iron pipe connecting it. Man, I wonder if someone's tried to steal that in the last 18 years. It's effectively the same as stealing like a fire hydrant in terms of the metal value. So yeah, I will be true to my word. I will go down there tomorrow and see what is up, and then maybe I'll email someone at the historical society if it's still there. So you can have one of those pipe supports, very elegant. You can definitely tell again because concrete with this time would have been both it's like almost like carbon fiber today, reinforced concrete, and they would have been using. With the labor costs would have been worth it to make this slender and as material efficient as possible. And again, today it's the exact opposite, where materials are I say it every damn one of these sessions that back in the day materials were cheap and today materials are cheap and labor is expensive. So that this stuff would reflect it. Some most older folks' complaints, and I'll be one of even my complaints is rooted along the fact that labor gets more expensive due to people's just the higher productivity value of labor makes all labor more expensive. Here we have this top of the stairs. I just would love to know, like, you have this concrete stuff and this like stairs to nowhere. Like it starts at the bottom of the slope and goes to the top of the slope. And I just don't know. Like I would have loved to have known what this place looked like when it was fully operational. Because there's just so little there now. It's just like a lot of railroad stuff. Well, railroad stuff just turns into complete I'm gonesville type of stuff. And again, here we have where the cast iron pipe got probably shattered by a tree falling, opening up this area, and then the ivy comes right in. But I definitely had a lot of these locations as a kid, and it gave me a healthy respect for, poking around into places. Especially back in the day when there was, much less. My dad could take me as literally as a freaking toddler adventuring because no one had any camera to, no one had a phone camera on them to both call the police and put it on, put it on, social media. Like, why is this guy taking his 6-year-old kid on fill in the blank thing there? I was a very adventurous kid. Um, I could climb pretty much any old tree. Um, very, very, very sure of myself. Very sure-footed, so I never fell, never broke a bone. I think I got a sprain once. So okay. Anyway, here we have. You can just see it. It's almost like an old. Oh, where am I looking? I'm not sure. This might be the hill where the sewage treatment plant thing is, right through the trees. The reason I took this photo is you can see the old fence line. So whatever was around here, it was used enough to get a pretty stout chain link fence. Now chain link does go back, chain link technology does go back at least into the 30s. I don't know if it exists in the 20s. Let's see when someone invented this. 1890s. Yes, here it is. Patented method forming chain link fence. His brother patented a method in 1930, which made chain link fence safe and practical for residential use. Eliminated each ragged, basically at the edges. Oh, So yeah, maybe it was. I just don't know. Like it looks pretty modern, but not. It could have been redone at any point though. So. And here we have at the top of the hill. I'm sure this is a little CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. They were all active around Cooper River back in the day. They put stuff, little stone doohickeys all over the place. I bet that this little creek has a name. So just to give people a couple of additional perspectives here. Utica Avenue Station, South Race interlocking, the new so yeah, I have it as there it is, Westmont. I even put the photos up for it, and then the CCC thing would be in there, and that would have been built the whole Cooper River Park, the whole project all the way along. That was a big old CCC thing, starting in there, and they all these little. If you plop down, I'm trying to see where one would be. Oh, I know where to show you. I mean, it's not Cooper, but it's Newton, and I can show you an example. Yeah, it's crazy how much these creeks were swampy AF from what I heard and polluted, and the whatever they did back in the Depression cleaned up, because this was like these were at definitely at the forefront of the forefront of suburbanization in the 1930s. So it was definitely seen as a way to make these areas a lot more livable from being, just a whatever. So anyway, see that little thing there? That was built the exact same time. These rubble, stone shelters and stuff. All these. Oh man, this area. Oh, they're losing a lot of trees. Yeah, it's unfortunate. One interesting thing is that when I was a kid, they would mow all the way to the water line, and I remember some point in the '90s, as a they basically you can say cost savings, but the real point was to improve the riparian ecosystem, because it was just mowed straight to the thing, and the only thing you would have living there were muskrat holes, and I remember it was a conscious choice. Them basically saying, we're gonna not mow to we're gonna let willows and other plants grow along the riverbank, and it's going to let it become a habitat. So that was a nice thing. So it's the bigger ones have been there, but yeah, they put all those trees sort of came in. Sorry. So the question then becomes, yeah, I'm pretty sure that sewage, the concrete around whatever that sewage plant was, is definitely in the 1920s or earlier, and this came in the 30s. So here we are looking over down the Cooper River Bridge. Bridge is, of course, original from when they built the line, but back before it went back in service, I think there was only one track, and it had sort of that boardwalking on it. When I say boardwalking, it had like walkways, the middle and the two sides that was one of those things my dad was like, be careful there. There's holes in it. One of the things, yeah, he was definitely that he made me look out for was because as a kid you actually can fall through those holes between the ties. So my dad that was a safety point of emphasis. And to this day, I still treat those with probably more respect than I need to, since I can't fit through them anymore. So I'm gonna I need to find a milepost on that, and I know where I went. I went back and took photos of it. In 2016, I got some photos in that same area, and I bet I have a milepost on that bridge. So here's what they did. You can see that only has the flashing advance approach. I don't know what the southbound one has. Oh, here we go. Here's the milepost. Milepost 5.5 at Utica Avenue. So I can just count backwards from Utica. Oops. No, I need to get distance. The bridge would be at about 5.2. Oh, and that's a permanent speed restriction sign. They're not commonly used on under NORAC, but PSR signs on NORAC are actually elevated to a minimum height of like 10 feet. So that's a permanent speed restriction sign for the Haddonfield Trench, where it's co-joined with it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed restriction from like there all the way through to in there. And there's a tall permanent speed restriction sign on either side. Those are very rare on NORAC. It's also not very common for railroads to have. Most railroads will have permanent ones and not temporaries, and NORAC has the explicit temporaries and no permanents. Okay. There we go. I have a nice picture of the 2007 configured race, South Race interlocking there. So I am going to be doing another one of these tomorrow, and then I'll find a way to finish it up as soon as I possibly can, possibly next Friday. Man, I wish that these weren't approach lit like this. And here's a thing that exists. If you look in your PRSL books, any of them, you will see along the PR bridge route, before they put in these guys for the power, these wooden poles with the 22 kV circuits there, these existed. So these were a lattice, a metal lattice thing that also had 2 circuits. I don't know when they went away. Clearly when the pole lines went in, but these were the original high voltage or distribution line here, and there were a few of these guys left. An interesting question would then be: is any of those still there today? I will look tomorrow. Maybe I'll bring the answer back. Need to hit Street View. Here's the problem, that they're all covered. They'd all be covered by the whatever now. You know, I wonder if I have it in my 2016 visit. There, it's still there. Cool. Might even be a second one, but I think it's the same one. Yeah, that's absolutely the same one. Well, maybe there's 2. I don't know. It might be a different one. All right, no, that's not it for today. I did go back and check out behind the old Dighty service building before they demolished it. I think I was looking for a way in, but there was not one that was evident. I was sort of cursing myself because at least I got a few photos. You can see that it looks like it's been having some structural issues for quite some time there. Close out this section here. So it looks like I visit the The Utica Avenue area. Now, I've been to Utica Avenue for some occasional train photos, but I haven't like explored the woods there. I seem to do that every about decade or so. So we'll get the 2020 visit taken care of. And the last photo, just looking back. What is this down the road here? Is that a church? Now I'm interested. Whatever it is not there anymore. So you can see these are all 4-overs now. And wait. Oh, wow. Looks like whatever was there recently got demolished. Let's find out. Oh, look at that. Whatever this was, it might have been a separate parcel. Boy, that's a shame. That's a beautiful house. Oh, man. Look at that rubble chimney there. Getting a little overgrown. Still looking nice. And then, man. Oh, man. Yeah, this house was absolutely architected in the 20s. What a shame. Boy. See, this is where you need like landmarks preservation. It was a very wide lot, though. Look at that. Yeah, there's your problem. If this house had been on a narrow lot, it wouldn't have gotten subdivided. Oh, man. Oh, poof. Boy, that was unfortunate. Didn't know about that. So my question is, what the heck is that building right there? Yeah. More for me to investigate. See, that's the thing. There's this. Once you get on Street View, or Yelp, or it's hard to believe that Yelp and Street View don't only started in after 2005, 6, 7, 5 to 10. If something was gone before like 2008 or 7, it's unlikely to get on Street View. You have this period of time where maybe someone like myself took a digital photo of it. But it's you gotta go back to like paper records, or someone talked about it on a forum to get that. And it's tantalizingly close. Like you expect, oh, it's in the 21st century, that will be online, and then it's not. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you guys had fun. Sorry for the delay. I will start at the regular time tomorrow, and we'll see where we can go from there. By the way, there's a lot of redevelopment going on in Haddon Township these days. This corner got bulldozed recently. That was, I don't know why that's been like vacant for so long. Oh, whatever. It was just a couple of those. It's a lot of nice row homey stuff from back in the day. Not super, okay, that's not a huge loss. Let me point out one thing that is a loss, though, if I can find it. There's a lot of weird stuff on Haddon Avenue that you don't realize it's there until it's like too late. Not that guy. Not the police department. Oh, there. Oh, man. Yeah, we lost this one here. This house. Slate roof. garage. See, you never noticed it from Haddon because it faced whatever the side street was. Strawbridge. From Haddon, all you'd see was like, you know, you'd usually see a lot more trees and stuff. It was almost like sort of invisible. And that one got demoed very recently. Oh, look at that. Solariums, copper. Ugh. Why would you demo that one? Demo something like the Walgreens. Walgreens went bankrupt. All right. I gotta, anybody have any more questions? Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff on the Atlantic City Line. PL42s, I remember the Aces trains. The P40s were on the Atlantic City Line, I think, for a couple times. F40PHs back in the day. The F40 things with the weird Morrison-Knudsen hybrids were on it for a while. A lot of fun stuff. I should go back and check all that things. Anyway, I'll let you all go, guys. I'll go. It's a little bit after midnight. Thank you so much. I know that was a short stack. Tomorrow we will be covering some random stuff. Oops, that's stuff I can delete. Okay, here we are. Tomorrow we're going to be covering some stuff, an interesting feature in some woods near me, or part of it. Then we cut to Winslow Junction. And we're going to be basically at Winslow Junction and in Gora Village, and the South Jersey SJRR through the rest of the set. So, yeah, it's a damn shame what happened to SJRR, that's for sure. I mean, look, there's the NYO and W unit getting painted. And this is only in 2007. And then the guy either died or... Oh, he got indicted, then he died, and there it all goes. But, all right. We'll see you next time.